What's up guys, Lockie here. I scaled my coaching business Scale Smart to $1 million a month cash collected. And in this video, I'm gonna be discussing why autistic people are crushing you in business and a habit I started implementing over 7 years ago that has allowed me to annihilate my competitors. Now, the autistic thing is kind of just a clickbait thing. I'm actually not autistic, but this is something that people with autism and very successful people do, which is they have a very intense level of focus and obsession about the details. And it's really clear to me when someone's gonna dominate and win in business and when someone won't, because these two things they have very different opinions on. So let me show you my screen here. This is a video that I put on YouTube, funnily enough, 7 years ago. Okay, so I've been in this game for a decade now, but 7 years ago when I was really starting to get obsessed and learning about copywriting, I started putting out videos on YouTube, copywriting. Now, you motherfuckers ain't gonna be able to find this. I've obviously blurred out the URL so you can't find this video, but I'm gonna play a section here and then I'm gonna explain the principle that I want you to learn that's gonna make you way more money and be way more successful in your life, okay? So first of all, let's just play the intro because it's cringe.
Hey there guys, welcome back. It is Lockie Pure, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you what books I would read if I was starting from scratch in copywriting. If you were my student, what books would I tell you to read?
Okay, that's enough cringe. Let me get to the section that I want to show you. Alright, here we go.
Get your hands on. So now I have my own copy of this book. And what I'll show you, I'm not sure, hopefully this can focus, is it's basically just successful ad after successful ad, okay? And what you want to do is you want to get a folder with basically, I don't know, plastic sleeves or whatever you want to call this, and you basically just want to stack it to the absolute brim with as many successful sales letters, ads, promotions that you can get your hand on, okay? Now I could keep swiping these pages every day, all day long, but I'm not.
Okay, so it's been 7 years. I was 20 in this. As you can tell, my voice is barely broke. I've got acne. But the important part about this is when you're learning a skill or you're in business and you specifically need to solve a problem and you don't know how to do it, a lot of people, they take a general, oh, I should get better at this, or oh, I should fix this, or oh, here are some of the main things to fix this problem. But the people who win, the people who destroy you, the people who make 10 years of progress in 1 year, the people who achieve things that are completely unreasonable, they obsess very, very intensely on the details. Yes, because they want the result. I was not a 20-year-old kid who decided to read these ads instead of watching Netflix because I had an interest in ads. It was because I wanted the results so intensely, but I learned to love obsessing about getting better. So just quick context. When I was learning copywriting, I was working at a digital marketing agency here in this video. I just got the job. And in the interview, when I got the job, I instantly said to the founder, as soon as I got the job, I was like, what would you do if you were me? What would the skill that you would learn be if you were me? Like, what would you do? And he said, copywriting. I said, okay, I'm gonna learn that. So I went home and I Googled what copywriting even meant. And then I found all these old school direct response ads. And this kind of ties back to my other video about finding mentors. But I found all of these ads that were written in, this one's written in 1980, the 1980s, right? These are old print ads. This is how people used to advertise and sell products. They'd write up these ads, put them in newspapers and magazines and shit like that, and then they'd sell. It's basically their form of like Facebook or Instagram advertising, right? And so I printed out, as you can see, a fucking thick ass book of all of these ads from a variety of the best direct response copywriters in the world. And it was about an hour and a half of commuting every day on the train to get there and back from my job. And I didn't listen to music. I didn't watch YouTube videos. Literally at 6 a.m., because I got there really early before the office was even open, I'd way out the front, I would read these ads. Okay? So, and I promise you, I don't have autism. I just did this because I really wanted to win. I would read these ads and I would obsess over the individual little words that they would use. And they would say things. And I'll give you an example here because I still love this shit. So this is an ad written by Gary Halbert. I just want to show you the level of detail and obsessiveness you want to get to, and then you need to apply it to whatever it is that you're learning. I'm going to give you a few different examples here from my life so you can see what I mean. So this is an ad written by a guy called Gary Halbert. It's written to housewives who want to lose weight from the perspective of a housewife who has lost weight. So I remember really distinctly, I was on the train reading this, and he basically starts the story talking about a sub-story, right? And here it says, I couldn't help it. I reached my breaking point. I felt like I was going to have a nervous breakdown. It happened one Monday morning, right after I got on the bathroom scales to weigh myself. And I had been on a strict diet for nearly 2 months. I had gone off the diet over the weekend to give myself a break and just to live like a normal human being for a couple of days. Now the scale said I weighed 188 pounds. Did you catch it? Did you catch the thing? Probably not. But I caught it because I'm a fucking weirdo. Like, look at this line just here. To give myself a break and just live like a normal human being for a couple of days. That little line, just live like a normal human being for a couple of days. I remember reading that. I can still remember reading it 7 years later. And I was like, holy shit, that is brilliant. The dude who wrote this was like a guy in his 50s who did drugs and banged hookers and partied. He can't fucking relate to this person, but he was so good at understanding the customer that he was able to add in that one comment, just to give myself a break, just to live like a normal human being for a couple of days. And I was like, holy fuck, like the customers, that's exactly how they would say that. That is exactly how they would word that. So it's like when he runs this and a woman reads this who can relate to this, that's exactly what she would say. So I'm like, fuck, in my copy, in my ads, how do I get so specific with those little offhand comments, those little side notes that a normal marketer wouldn't know to say, but all the customers in my niche and industry use, so I can resonate with them, right? And so I was like weirdly obsessed with that, and I was like, that's dope. And so it's like no one who was learning, first of all, absolutely fucking nobody at the agency was doing this, right, that I was working at. So I flew past the people that I was working with. But moving forward, if your competitors, for you, you need to like obsess over these weird little details. Now there is some line to draw. We don't want to stress the details if you've got these huge fucking things on fire and your whole business sucks, right? Don't worry about the little sentence. But I'm just trying to put you into the mindset and perspective that this is normal and this is good. If anyone turns their nose or they think this is weird or they think that's too much or that doesn't matter or whatever, 100% that person sucks and they don't win. 100% that person's going to get annihilated, okay? Let me give you another example. I remember reading this ad and I was like, this is a fat loss ad. And I remember I was just like so impressed about the way that he did this. So a big thing for him is he would do a lot of research on the product and then he uses his research to write the ads to convince people that things are going to work because they've tried other shit that didn't work in the past. So for example, I remember I was reading this ad and for this weight loss product, he found out that one of the things was brindleberries I think it was like a pill or something, I can't remember. And brindleberries naturally contain approximately 20 to 30% of something scientists call hydroxystrate, or HCA for short. And according to 7 different clinical studies, the HCA found in brindleberries does 3 things that help people lose weight. I was like, holy shit. He has this product he needs to sell. He's identified one ingredient. He's then found 7 clinical studies that have all the benefits of this one ingredient. Like he's gone to so many different ways. And so I was reading it just in awe. Like HCA has a unique ability to stop hunger dead in its tracks. Here's what it says about this in the scientific literature. Over 7 clinical feeding studies comprising more than 100 subjects utilizing 3 mg per kilo oral dose level of HCA contained, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, what does this mean in plain English? It's very simple. It means that now at last, because of this discovery, you can reduce your food intake drastically and not be hungry again. So he identifies an ingredient. He identifies 7 clinical studies. He identifies one of the core benefits of the promise, or one of the core benefits to the customers who want to buy this product. He explains it in a scientific way. So the customer basically says, well, I'm confused. I don't know what that means, but he must be right. And then he translates a benefit in English. He does that 3 times. Bang, bang. And then he does it again with other ingredients that are within the pill. Bang, 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 right? And it's just brilliant. So I was like, fuck, how do I do that with my ads? So I was sitting there on the train reading these things and obsessing over this while there were 20-year-olds next to me going out and partying, right? And now I didn't give a shit what you choose to do with your life. It's not about judging anyone for what they do with their life. I'm just trying to share some source here. The next thing is, this is a more recent one for you, is I have a client I'm working with at the moment. I'm going to blur out all this information for now. Potentially in the future, they'll let me share this stuff. But these are sales call transcripts from 12 of their closing calls that they closed. And as you can see, or you can't see everything here, but on the right-hand side, you can see that this is 27 pages. So when I started working with this client, what was one of the first things that I did before I wrote any copy or came up with any offers? I read, not just put into ChatGPT. I'll show you how you can do that in other videos on this channel, but I read every single one of these things. I don't know what 27 times 12 is. Let me just do that real quick. 27 times 12, that's 13. 12 times, motherfucker. 12 times 27 equals 324 pages. I read roughly, obviously they're not all 27 pages. I read roughly 324 pages of transcripts of sales call recordings before I wrote a single word of copy. Do you know how fucking boring that is? It is absurdly boring. However, it's absurdly high leverage as well, okay? And so what was I reading for? I'll do another video breaking down all this in the free $1 Million a Month course I'm doing. But I was reading through to identify what was the core problem everyone was trying to fix, what was the core outcome everyone was trying to get once this problem was fixed, and what's everything that they've tried, because it's a very product-aware market. What's everything everyone's tried, and what are their skepticisms and fears around that? So guess what I do in the headline of the landing page where we're going to send all of their traffic? I immediately I promise to solve the same problem they want to solve. I promise to get them the outcome, but then I acknowledge the things that they've tried, and I promise a new alternative method of solving that, because I know, based on the conversations I've read with the salespeople, that if I don't immediately differentiate between how other people try to solve it and how I solve it in the headline of the first thing that they see in our entire marketing sales funnel, it's going to be a very, very high drop-off rate on that page. And we're not going to get a lot of these people, especially the qualified ones with money, who have paid money to try and solve this in the past, coming through. How many people do you think would read 320 pages of written transcripts of sales calls? Let me ask you a question. How many people do you know in your life who have ever done that? I can tell you, I don't know anyone who's ever done that. And this isn't a flex, because this shit's boring as fuck. And it's not magical or fancy, but it's just to really illustrate to you that you're probably just not as good as you think you are, because you don't do anywhere near the level of obsessive work that you need to do. Okay? And this is, I really love listening to this guy. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to space. Maybe I'm autistic. Fuck. But this is Brian Cox. I love watching his videos talk about space, and he's definitely on the spectrum, that's for sure. But you can just see the way that he talks about it. He loves the intricate, tiny, obsessive little details of space and how he shares it and how he talks about it. And that's why he's the best. That's why he's so smart. There's another example here for you. This was uploaded to my channel 3 years ago, but it's on private. This is a old school infomercial for Tony Robbins. So for those of you who don't know, Tony Robbins was made really big because he actually had direct response ads run like this for him. And he was really, really big in infomercials, and his infomercials were actually run by Guthrie Renker, who I mentioned in my mentorship video. So I used to watch these. I know it says 0 views, but it's because it's unlisted on my private. It's a private video on my private channel. But I've been watching this, and look how boring this is. Look how bad quality this is.
Conditioning. Hi, I'm Fran Tarkenton. In my personal and professional life, I've always been absolutely committed to being the best at what I do. Last year, I visited Tony Robbins at his home in San Diego, the famous Del Mar Castle, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Since then, we've become close friends. Tony Robbins has powerfully influenced my life, and if you're willing, he can have a profound impact on you too. For over 10 years, Anthony Robbins has studied peak performance and identified the fundamental principles.
So what this part of the VSL is, this is the third-party authoritative intro of the guru. So what I would do is I would watch VSLs like this. Then I would have a document open in the next page, and I would get the VSL transcribed. And then what I would do on the next page is I would identify the key sections in the VSL and how they do it. So for example, I'm just watching, I can tell you that right here, Tony Robbins is being introduced on his own infomercial by a third-party person who they just previously, I skipped up a little bit because it was a bit boring, but they previously built up his experience as this $200 million CEO of all these big companies, and then he introduces Tony Robbins. What does that do? It means when Tony Robbins immediately makes the promises that he needs to make to get people to watch the remainder of the VSL, they will believe his promises more. Even more than if Tony Robbins was saying, I changed this person's life, this person's life, this person's life, which he still does, but because someone else who had credibility and respect introduced him, immediately all of his promises become more believable, so that people watch through longer of the VSL, he makes more money, right? So I just love this, and I've just been obsessing over this. So my source for you, if it hasn't become clear enough already, I want you to identify what's the problem in your business or your career, okay? Then you need to become obsessive, and it could be a small specific thing that's a quick fix, but I'm talking more about like bigger things, okay? Like big skills. And then I want you to become obsessive, really obsessive over the details of becoming the best. And you're gonna have to do things that nobody else will do. A great question to ask is, what would be such an unreasonable level of action or detail that I would need to go through in order to become the best at this, or in order to make sure this problem is fully resolved? And then you just do it. And it's going to be really boring and really cringe at first and really tedious. But once you start doing it, you start getting better results, it becomes more addictive and you start to enjoy it. Because if you're not good at something yet, you know, when you start doing this, you just realize all the shit that you don't know. But then you start getting better at it and learning it, and you get really, really good at it. So that's my advice. I hope you enjoyed. Click the link below if you want to work with me one-on-one, and I can do some weird, obsessive, autistic shit for your business. If you don't want to do that, then just subscribe to the channel. New videos coming soon. Peace.